Minors are not permitted to trespass on community property. That's what the HOA cop declared right before pulling a gun and pointing it straight at my 17-year-old niece Sloan, right outside our family's old lake cabin. She was standing there with nothing but a glass cleaner and a rag, hadn't even figured out what was going on, and suddenly she's being told to freeze, hands up, don't move, you're under investigation. You know what I mean? That's the sort of morning that just lets you know the universe woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Behind him stood Karen HOA president, local legend, and I'm telling you, someone who thought she was God's gift to community enforcement, arms crossed, wearing that look people save for airport security lines like she's one eyebrow away from declaring martial law. But here's the thing, they didn't know the little secret they were about to trip over this place, and the girl they were trying to shake down was holding a legal hand grenade that could blow up every slimy trick this HOA had pulled for years, and all they had to do was keep pushing. Now, before we get too far, let me tell you who's talking. I'm Marcus Thornfield, but folks call me Mac. 45 ex-private investigator, current auto mechanic, and by a weird twist of fate, now the only parent figure my niece Sloane's got after my sister Sarah passed away in a car accident 3 years ago. These days, it's just the two of us trying to figure out this thing called life, and honestly, more often than not, she's the one making sure I eat and get out of bed. This was our first time back at the lake cabin since Sarah died. I'd been avoiding it for all the obvious reasons, but Sloane, she'd been asking quietly for months. I caved. The drive up to Pine Lake took 2 hours. She spent the whole ride laptop open, working on something, making those little noises like she was hacking into the Pentagon. I asked what she was up to, and she just said summer project stuff. That girl, she's got her mother's brains, and if I'm honest, a little too much of my old detective curiosity for anyone's peace of mind. We pull up and man, something is off. Cabin's supposed to look abandoned after 3 years, but the lawn's trimmed fresh lock on the door, and there's an official-looking sign on the steps. Pine Lake OA property, no trespassing. I could feel my blood pressure spike. Sarah bought that cabin outright, no HOA in sight. And when she died, she left it to Sloane. So where did this HOA come from? Sloane starts snapping pictures of the sign. Seriously, she's meticulous. And then she's off cleaning windows like she owns the place, which, spoiler, she actually does. I'm standing there with my old photo of Sarah, just missing her, when here comes our security officer strutting around the cabin like he's walking the perimeter of Fort Knox. He's late 30s, average build with a mustache that looks straight out of a Halloween store uniform. Too crisp. Pine Lake HOA security patch sewn on a little crooked. He's got that mall cop energy, you know. He tells us, step away from the property. You're in violation of Pine Lake community regulations. His eyes are locked on Sloane, and I can hear the script in his voice. I say, sir, can you show me your identification? Because let's be real, HOA security doesn't get to carry guns. I spot one on his hip, which is not exactly what I want to see next to my niece. Back when I was a PI, I saw enough property disputes to know the difference between real authority and a guy playing dress-up. He goes, Deputy Rick Morrison. I have full authority to enforce community standards in this jurisdiction. This property's in violation for 36 months, and we're authorized to seize it. He's sweating now. Sloane, God love her, just sets her supplies down, walks right up to this guy and goes, Deputy Morrison, what specific law gives HOA security the right to carry firearms? Because according to state law, private security officers need a special license, and HOA enforcement's handled in civil court. Now he's stammering, trying to recall the rest of his lines, and just as he's about to lose the plot, he actually pulls his gun and points it at my niece. My body goes cold. Sloane's hands are up, but she's calm, way calmer than I am. I keep my voice steady, Rick. You better think real hard about what you're doing. Pointing a gun at a minor in a property dispute is a felony. That's when we hear a car door slam. And out steps Karen, the HOA president herself, early 50s, blonde, expensive suit, looks like she'd sue you for breathing too loud. She strides over like she's starring in her own courtroom drama. There's this predatory gleam in her eye. She's ready to make an example out of us. She introduces herself, starts spreading out papers on her BMW like she's hosting a board meeting on the hood. These are the violation notices. 36 months of unpaid dues, late fees total, owed to $18 to $500, board's authorized seizure. The paperwork looks too fresh, too uniform, and there's no letterhead or notary stamp. Sloan, unfazed, says, "Miss Blackwell, can I see those documents? I'd like to verify your legal standing." Karen hesitates, then hands them over. Sloan turns the pages, runs her finger along the edge, and finally says, "All these notices are printed on the same stock, same ink, same date range. And there's no official HOA registration number. According to state law, these need to be notarized. These aren't legal." Karen tries to brush it off, claims they're copies, but her voice is wobbling. Rick is looking at her like, "Wait, what?" Sloan pulls out her own folder, deed county records stamped and sealed. "According to the county, I'm the legal owner, and there's no registered HOA in this area." The silence is heavy. I can almost see the gears grinding in Karen's head as she searches for her next move. Suddenly, the neighbor, Judge Eleanor Hartwell, retired 71, tough as nails, steps out, coffee in hand. She's been watching the whole circus unfold. "I've lived next door for 40 years, she says, "and I helped Sarah review the deed. There's no HOA jurisdiction here." Karen tries to regain control. "The Pine Lake Luxury Community HOA is newly established. We're in the process of finalizing paperwork." Judge Ellie's eyes narrow. "That's odd because county records show no such application in 5 years. And even if you existed, this property predates any HOA by 15 years. Right about then, Tommy Chen Sloan's best friend and editor of their school newspaper shows up, notepad ready. "I'm working on a piece about property rights scams," he says, "all business." You should have seen Karen's face, like she'd been hit with a bucket of cold water. Rick, by now, looks ready to make a run for it. Sloan takes charge. "I started investigating after I got your first HOA notice. Found 28 other families all targeted with fake fees and threats of property seizure. All elderly or single-parent households, all with a ton of equity." She hands Judge Ellie a spreadsheet detailed, irrefutable. Rick breaks. "Karen, when you hired me, you said this was just a property management job. You didn't mention scamming families or dealing with retired judges. Turns out he's an out-of-work actor hired off Craigslist to play deputy for $100 and a sandwich. The whole thing badge, uniform, even the gun is fake." Sloan leads everyone into the cabin, unlocks a secret room hidden behind a bookshelf. My jaw hits the floor. Inside is a mini law office, wall-to-wall, with family trust documents, land grants, and every piece of paper you'd need to prove ownership of half the lake. Sloan shows them. This 1890 grant covers 68% of Pine Lake, including 15 houses targeted by your fake HOA. And every property sale has a revenue-sharing clause with the Ashworth Trust. Karen tries one last time. That doesn't change current standards, but she knows she's cooked. Sloan's got everything. Documents, survey maps, digital recordings of every threat and demand. She pulls out a recorder, hits play, and Karen's voice fills the room, threatening consequences for non-payment. Judge Ellie lays it out. "Miss Blackwell, you've committed fraud, extortion, conspiracy, and threatened violence." Karen tries to call her legal team, but when the voicemail for Discount Legal Service answers on speaker, everyone cracks up. Rick throws his badge down and all but begs for a plea deal. Then come the sheriff's cars. Sheriff Martinez, all business, steps in. Karen's in handcuffs. Rick's already singing for a lighter sentence. The evidence Sloan gathered, documents, interviews, everything goes straight to the DA and the Attorney General. 6 months later, Karen's sitting in prison, 12-year sentence for wire fraud, racketeering, and criminal enterprise. Rick gets probation, turns his life around, and even stars in a play about scam artists. Tommy wins a state journalism award for his expose. Judge Ellie becomes a mentor to Sloan, and Tommy their kitchen, a war room for consumer protection. But the real kicker, Sloan's legal work uncovers that the Ashworth Trust owns land and rights worth millions. She starts a foundation, educates the community, gets folks stolen money back, and builds a network so tight no scammer will ever get a foothold again. Our once quiet lake cabin is now a headquarters for justice, filled with people who refuse to be bullied. And just to put the cherry on top, a few months after sentencing, Sloan gets a handwritten letter from Karen on prison stationery applying for a job with the Ashworth Family Foundation when she's released in 12 years. Sloan frames it right next to Karen's fake HOA notice. So let me ask you, ever had someone try to intimidate or scam you out of what's rightfully yours? How'd you handle it? Drop your story in the comments because sharing what you learned could help someone else. If this story hit home, leave a like, subscribe, and maybe send some support so we can keep bringing you these wild, true tales of standing up for what's right. Because in the end, the real power isn't just in the paperwork, it's in refusing to let bullies decide who you are.